Greetings everyone, Lomberg here, and today we are going to go over the void performance of merged nations. The nations that merged very recently in July 7th. They had a void about 9 days later on July 16th, and this is the results of those recent mergers. And the attempt is to really to understand, which nations merged well, which ones worked together, and what is their results. So here you can see all of the results that I've compiled in this summary spreadsheet, and we're going to go through each one of these very quickly. As usual, this spreadsheet will be in my description link below, so you can go back and look at it, and we will really focus on a couple of things that I've done here in these folders, and we'll start off with the twice merged nations. A lot of times, right after a void, usually the merged nations get matched together. However, there was 5 merged nations for the twice merged nations here. And so we'll start off with the one that didn't get a merged versus merged matchup. So it was 269 versus 175. Here is the results for it. I went through and grabbed these pictures. Really commanding performance by 269, no surprise there. 269 and 242 merged to form 269. Really outstanding performance by UBN. So I think both, and you can see here, there's Polo, there's Chicken, both had number 1 and 2 results, so no surprise there. Here is the performance of all the alliances, so you can really see 269 has a commanding performance, really led by UBN. Here's the top 10 commanders of void points. And here's a couple of battles that you can see. So really, some really good battles that happened, some good defenses, a lot of attacking by 269, no surprise there. So this was a matchup between a recently merged nation, 269, and a, second merged 175, but much earlier. Basically, there wasn't an even number, so Camel couldn't find a merged versus merged matchup. And it's no surprise that 269 was matched up with, a nation that was merged before. So what does 269 look like now? You can see here the number 1 alliance in terms of BP is UBN, and then here's the matchup here. So you can see that there's still a good bit of BP. This is really very soon after they merge, so I think they've done a great job. Here is the alliance killed, so you can kind of get a sense for which ones are going to be the main void alliances with the top kills. If we go back and now go into the next combination, so this one I really want to focus on. This was a great matchup. 246 versus 274, and the score doesn't indicate it. So these are both recently merged nations on July 7th. 41 billion to 33 or 34 billion almost. 246 on top. 246 is a very, powerful nation with a lot of high BP players. But Void hasn't always been their strongest, focus. However, they really did come together, and there was some massive battles here and massive points. Here is the performance. You can see here 274, 246, a lot of high points, a high scoring void, a lot of targets. And here, great performances by, the top players. You can see Sammy Whammy, Squid, I'm not really sure, but, she did a fantastic job. So a lot of high individual scores. And here you can see, this is 274. After the merger, you can see kind of these lead alliances kind of forming along the lines of 274 and 206. And I think there is some civil war between TDT and 206 or TZS. Here is the alliance kills. You can see here TDT has, very low BP, but pretty high kills. And then on the other side, 246 seemed to have a friendly or more agreeable merger, and, a lot of alliances here. The Punisher alliances has low BP, but clearly is very void focused, because you can see here in the score, they scored pretty high. highest for 246. Let's go through a couple of the reports, and this one I really wanted to even show a replay because this is a fantastic example of what happens when you when you reinforce slowly and just so we're going to watch this video here, and I'm going to speed it up, and you can really see here where the power of these titans and warplanes and this monster player just killing everything. So you can see here, look at the bar, every time red is about to finish the battle, another blue joins in, which is yep, you'll win the battle, almost finished there just in time. So you can see here, battles moving up, troop formations are all whack, but it really does show you that you can see this result here, 6 billion BP lost. This wasn't even an SOS, 154, units lost T12. That's a pretty big loss, but for a player of this caliber and this BP, that's nothing. These points are amazing, and that's how she got to number 1. I wanted to show one more report here. You can see some great reports here. This one is another fantastic one. Here you can see there was 13 attackers, and there was 37 defenders. They lost the battle, but they won in terms of points. How did they do that? In 274 is really good at this, so we're gonna watch that replay here, and you can see you'll begin to see it. So I sped it up right to the point where they say, okay, there's 13 attackers, the battle bar is low, and that's when they do a very well coordinated retreat. Now, not everybody was able to retreat, so some people took some higher losses, but a lot of those squid mid-range players kind of get their battles. So this is an example of how even when you have fewer attackers, if you do that coordinated retreat, you can actually win more points and still lose the battle. So pretty impressive. That's why I thought that the score was didn't reflect some of the tactics and some of the nice things that 274 used. This is another example of, I think just a strong player, a huge SOS here. So pretty impressive there. I didn't show that replay, and some more battles that you can see. So pretty spirited, massive, back and forth void. So pretty impressive. Great job to both of those teams. And then let's take a look at 286 and 278. 286 won by a pretty healthy margin, 8 billion. 286 is a very strong nation, so they're pretty organized, and you can see it here. Just look at that performance, huge performance by Wild Baby Gam, WBG. I think this is Monsters Nation, SVS. SVS was having, I think, on a podcast with Nikki, we had a couple of their leaders on, and they were really trying to make a dent and hopefully, score well and perform well in Void, and looks like they did. So they were the top scorer there. You can see here the second alliance is for 286. A really great personal performance by Son Situ from Wild Baby Gang. And here you can see that, BP wise, this is kind of the top 3. 286 has always been, an extremely strong finalist and winner for Global Conquest, but now I think they're going to be able to really, outshine as well in Void. So pretty impressive kill counts there. And then on the flip side, 278, really good potential, probably a little bit more consolidation needed for these top alliances. Clearly, SVS is with Yas as the leader who was on with Nikki, is a Void-focused alliance that, can hopefully help lead the nation on better bubbling and targeting. 286 is a great opponent, so I think they did a great job. Here are some of the battle reports. You can see they were not shy of both attacking or defending. This was a great defense by SVS. Here you can see that this is a great attack by SVS. Of course, people post the best battle, so I'm sure there was more. this was a loss posted, I think, by both nations. And by the way, these reports that I'm showing, I should say that these were on nation chat. I did not get permission from the individual alliances or players, but because they're on nation chat, I figured they're public and it should be okay. If anybody does not want these or has issues with kind of how I'm reading it, I'm of course just a third-party outsider knowing really nothing about kind of what happened, just using nation chat. And we all know that if you follow nation chat, you get a skewed story, but that's the best that I have access to. Great, I think, trap here and win by WBG. Here's another one where you can clearly see that, LOA was not shy of attacking. Here they did, they looks like they attacked 100 million BP plus C38 and did some really heavy damage. Look at those troop lost, 4.6 million. So a fantastic hit there. Here you can see they tried the same thing here, but look at this turnout, 70. That is impressive by 286 WBG. This is really, really strong. Fantastic performance, fantastic defense there. Then on the flip side, they attacked and did pretty well there. Not enough defenders there. It just depends on the timing of when that happened. A lot of battles. So, really spirited Void. Everybody was interested in attacking. Nobody was just playing plain defense. So it looked like a great matchup. Everybody got involved. This is OUR and C4U. You can see some good battles there. All of this is just a snapshot of many more battles that happened. This was a great SOS. You can see here clearly, huge loss by this player. It's almost like a game quitting loss, but I just wanted to point out that then they, 286 is so organized. They go through a list. They say, which people performed. So pretty organized even with their nation rules. So, if you're looking for ideas and want to reach out, the leaders of 286 are pretty organized in their nation. So that's a deeper dive analysis that I did just because I know these worlds. We're going to now go through the first time merger nations. And in the first time merger nations, there really was, so this is kind of the summary. If you don't want to see all those pictures, which I don't have on this file, but I have the main results and kind of have, so in this summary, I have, what was the final score? What was the top alliance performance? What was the margin of victory here? And the green here is the nations that merged in July of 2023, so very recently. Now we're going to go through all the other nations. So these are the first time mergers, right? So green means, so there was only 2 matchups where they matched merged nation with merged nation. So interestingly, unlike the twice merged nations where there was an odd number, that's why they had to match somebody else, and poor 175 got stuck with the wrath of 269. Yeah, here it looked like a lot of the matchups were with unmerged nations. So merged versus unmerged. Of course, one of them was with merged versus merged, and that was a locked one. Interestingly enough, so let's go through these. So we'll first start with the merged versus merged. So 629 and 674. Let's go through that one first. This one, as expected, was a very close battle with 629 taking the win. So it looks like you can see here, great performance by Kill or Die, KOD. A lot of individual performances here by, I think this was the Taiwan Alliance. And then just in terms of how the nations look like, you can see here, these are first time mergers. So, let's give them some credit. They really didn't have a lot of time to organize before this void. And this is not indicative of what the performance might be in the future. But, you can see here that they began to kind of gather power here in KOD. And on the other side, you can also see I tried to show the comparative kill count to show that they're a void focused or high performing alliance. On the other side, it was close because they have similar organization where TKS, the kill squad, is the leading alliance there and also leads by kill. Performance wise, the top 2 was as expected, KOD or the kill squad, and they eked out a win probably because KOD went more aggressively and got more points. Of course, this ignores the split between what was phase 1 through 4 versus 5. I didn't really get any reports, but that was a quick summary of two merged nations for the first time going at it. The other one was more closer. It's 637 versus 639. This is also a matchup between two merged nations. So this was decided by about 300,000 or 350,000. 350 million, with 637 taking the win over 639. Again, very close matchup. You can see here, the top two alliances from both of these, ATA and WFS from 637 and 639 respectively, almost had the same points. So very close battle with 637 taking the victory. So let's really high individual performances here. You can see, or sorry, not really high, but some pretty even distribution. The top 10 is pretty close. In terms of what the alliances look like after merger, it looks like there's two big ones probably from the two different nations that merged into 637. Sorry, that was 639. That's the Alliance BP. And then kill count, you can see clearly here that, the Wolves Alliance is definitely the leader of that nation. On the other side, for 637, you can see ATA and Hellfire about even. Those are the top two. And then from a kill count perspective, it looks like the leader in terms of Void was probably going to be ATA. And you do see that in the performance here, with ATA taking the lead and Wolves taking the lead from 639. So that was really the matchup between the two merged nations that only existed. For everything else, it was a merged nation versus a unmerged nation, and this wasn't a very close one and a upset in the terms of I don't know if it's an upset, but a merged nation lost to a unmerged nation. So great performance by 701. So, they probably came in with a disadvantage in phase 1 to 4 just because there's more people, and they made it up in battle, and it looks like a very close one. So you can see 6094, 6131. 38 million is what separated this difference. And, I think when I was looking at Nation Chat, you can see here, this is, the merged nation is probably 623 here, is going to try to kind of figure out and say, why did we lose? We had such a big lead. Let's assess. So I think they're gonna right the ship. But that just takes absolutely no credit away from 701, who and especially this top alliance, the HOH, did a fantastic job of really really. You can see it here. Just look at this performance. How many HOH people are there? On the flip side, 623, the Hit Alliance, also had a great performance with the leaderboards. And so, in terms of what does 623 look like, some pretty decent top two, and then even a third in terms of BP, and then correspondingly some decent kill numbers there. Just to point out why a potential reason why 701 did so well is that they really did. You can see it here with the focus. They did kind of create a super alliance even before a merger, and that is probably no small contributor to their success. So that if you're a nation that wants to be a void machine, having your top players in one and having them active is clearly, you can beat anyone, even a merged nation. So that's really impressive, and hats off to 701. Next, the next group is all merged versus unmerged. This is another close one, 627 and 636. I think this one was where the merged nation actually took a pretty high lead from phase 1 to 4, which was cut short. So really 636 won the phase 5, the battle section, but they couldn't out out score, the deficit from phase 1 to 4. So, really good matchup here. I talked to somebody from 627 and 636 that I'm playing with in a new nation, and they mentioned that, they tried really hard, and both players from both nations, gave hats off to each other. So great matchup there. A close victory there for the merged nation 627. On these other ones, this is kind of more of as expected. 630 defeated 637 by 2.1 billion, merged versus unmerged. And then another fantastic matchup here, merge versus merge, but merge versus unlocked. We're going to look at that. So let's look at 634 versus 575. I'll just show this really quickly. This is the one where it was the 2.1 billion victory. You can see here. Here's the, really great performance by 630. No surprise there. Some high individual performances. And what does 630 look like after the merger? Looks like they have, top 3 here, clearly, with top 1 taking the top spot there. Decent kill counts too. Excuse me. This is the one. So this one really hats off to 634. It looks like a fantastic match, and Raw really stepped it up and really outperformed. So 575 is 4 nations. I think it's one of the Lock Nation mergers. So they have 4 nations in there. 634 just has 2 nations, and you can see here that they really outperformed, and it was a really close, hard-fought battle. It's not like they weren't trying to win, is my guess, is that it looked like, the Lock Nation 575 was trying to win. And really you can see here that they did create a super alliance, and maybe that contributed to their victory. Raw really did well. Really high kill count you can see there for their nation. That being said, 575 is no joke. They have a superpower in CHN, the China alliance, with really high kill count. So clearly, they've cleaned up their world, and it's a worthy, strong opponent. And you can see here how they won is they did not fear losing troops, and they attacked and won by points here. So they lost troops, but a couple of reports that I could find on NC is that they were hungry for the win and they earned it. And then here, this last battle here that you see here, where this 4.5 million points is probably what led to some of their victory. And this was right at the end with 90 seconds to spare. So I just thought I'd share that it was a, nice, close matchup. So if we keep going, the last 2 is 667 and 668. The merged nations did win. So this was about $500 million victory, 500 million points victory. You can see here, pretty good performance by the merged nation 667. These are the individual commander performances. So you can see here that really 779 has a monster that did a lot of individual points, but it's just too much to overcome the merged nation. This is what the merged nation looks like after the merger. So you can see top 2 pretty strong powerhouses, pretty decent kill counts, with DYO Dynasty probably taking the lead. And then last but not least, we're going to look at 668 versus 747. So merge versus unmerged. Great performance by 668, by the top nation there. Impressive individual performance, almost $1 billion. And then what does the merge nation look like? Top 2 strong with a close third, with a really strong NMW alliance that outperformed everybody else, with a decent kill count as well. Okay, so to summarize, void is, of course, not the only measure. It's one of the measures that I'm biased towards, that I measure the success of a nation and how well they can come together. But, one thing to keep in mind is if you lost as a merged nation, don't think too much of it, because it really isn't enough time to kind of put together. Mergers are hard. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of personalities coming together, a lot of nations and different nation rules coming together. So this first win or loss shouldn't make or break you. But it is good to kind of see, how well, and compare yourselves to others and see how other people are doing. In this, I've updated the same spreadsheet, so it's the same link as before, as you'll see below. So this was like kind of the matchup of July mergers. Here's the merger master list that I have, that, if you want any of the history. And then this one is kind of, I've added some notes here to really show people, if you want to, you can kind of apply a filter here. So just to demonstrate. So if you wanted to know, okay, who are all the people that merged into, so we're going to first hit clear, and then we're going to say, okay, which nation do you want to see? I want to know everybody that merged into 269. And okay, so we did everybody that merged into 269. So here in this list, you can see that there's 6 nations that merged into 269, which makes sense because they had 2 mergers. The first merger was 3 nations. The second merger was only 2 nations. So, and here you can see all of the history. So this is if you wanted to use this, you can't do it on the version that I have. You'll have to make a copy. How do you do that? You can go here to share and export, and then say make a copy right here. So that's where you can kind of look at all this information. Of course, I've maintained this and see here, all the locked versus unlocked nations and kind of the history. So even if you look up here, hey, wait a minute. Let's say you want to find out what happened to nation 390. Well, here it will tell you 390 went into 405. What happened to 391? It went to 373. Okay, if we even want to go back further, what happened to nation 37? It's in number 2 now. What happened to nation 41? It's in 30. So this is kind of the history, and a nice, nice presentation format that's easy to understand, that people can kind of see, like, where do we stand. And that is it for this spreadsheet. I am working on this. This is not done yet, but I'm working on kind of predicting where the next round of mergers will be, and who, what will, it's really hard to know when that merger will be, because Chaos Land, as you know, that was supposed to be scheduled after Frenzy didn't happen. So part of it is really to kind of gauge, when it does happen, which ones will be matched up. So this will be part 2 of this video. This is already too long, and I'm losing my voice, and I don't want to bore you guys. So we will end it here today. But this spreadsheet, don't forget to use this as you want to do research. If you want to say, who came from what nation, this history is there. If you find any mistakes here, all of this I put together kind of manually and using formulas. But if you find a mistake, do let me know, and I will fix it. I thank you all for your support. Continue to ask questions, engage, and subscribe if you haven't. And I really appreciate it, guys. Take care.